Okay, before we talk about Hadlakas Neres, which is what we're going to do now, we're going to talk about the laws of lighting Shabbos candles, which are they are more involved than you imagine. You asked before, what exactly is complicated about this? You need to light the candles and that's it. We'll see that there's quite a lot of halacha that revolves around the lighting of the candles. Before we get there, there's a concept which wends its way back into the Gemara, something called Tosefet Shabbat. Right, or Tosefet Shabbos. The word Tosefet means extra. There is an inyan, there is very much a halachic dimension on Shabbos of bringing in Shabbos earlier than is absolutely necessary in order to add a little bit of Shabbos into the weekday. So, for example, wherever you are, they're going to light the Shabbos candles earlier than is absolutely required. You're required to light the Shabbos candles. The obligation of lighting the Shabbos candles is with sunset. Maybe a few minutes before, just to make sure that the person, chas v'shalom, doesn't transgress by lighting afterwards. However, everywhere, in every community, they light them earlier. Outside of Yerushalayim, they light them 18 minutes before sunset. In Yerushalayim and in parts of Petach Tikva, they light them 40 minutes before candle lighting.
Why Petach Tikva?
Because the original founders of Petach Tikva came from Yerushalayim, and they took the minhag and they took the customs of Yerushalayim, they brought them with them, and when they established Petach Tikva, that's what they established at the same time. The reason why in Yerushalayim we bring in Shabbos even earlier is because Yerushalayim is the holiest city in the world, Shabbos is the holiest day of the week, so we combine the two together and we add a dimension of holiness.
No, but what I was talking about was, you know how the woman lights the candle lighting?
Yes.
That doesn't bring it in for the man.
Right.
And I've never understood that, because if you're coming down as a family to watch to watch the woman of the family say like Hadin Nels for Shabbos.
Yeah.
She's bringing Shabbat.
Yeah.
So why isn't that bringing it in for you?
Here, because again, men and women, there is a difference over here. Mitzvah Hashem will talk about where the origins of women lighting the Shabbos candles, where that comes from, why women do it and not the men. But the origins of the idea of women, when the woman makes a bracha over lighting the candles, she is bringing Shabbos in. That's why, interestingly enough, very rare, but when the woman lights the Shabbos candles, she lights the candles first, and then she makes a blessing. As a rule, we do it the other way around, right? Normally, you make a bracha, for example, you take an apple, you make a bracha, and then you eat it, right? You don't eat it and then make the bracha.
But you just said she's bringing Shabbat
Yeah,
in.
one minute. She's bringing, the women have taken upon themselves from way back when, going back many, many generations, that when they light the Shabbos candles, for them, that's when Shabbos is coming in. That's it. Which means that when you go to watch your mother, or in Mitzvah Hashem, your wife, lighting Shabbos candles, what's funny about that? Yeah. All right, wives, I don't know, what you know. When you I don't know. What did I say that's funny? Was there something funny?
I never know.
He can't resolve the difficulty.
Okay, so when you go to watch your mother lighting candles, or your wife lighting candles, or if you prefer, the woman who is married to you lighting candles, right? If calling her your wife seems to have some kind of a, your whatever. Okay, she brings in Shabbos for herself, but for men it's not Shabbos yet, because the man is going to bring in Shabbos. Normally, the man is going to bring in Shabbos through davening, which means when he gets to Kabbalah Shabbos and he gets to either the last verse of Lechadoidi or Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbos, then at that point it becomes Shabbos for him. In all events for men, even if they don't go to shul, which of course is inconceivable, right? And even if they weren't to daven, which is even more inconceivable, right? It's going to become Shabbos for them come what may, which means at some point Shabbos is going to come in, and that is it. You're going to have to keep it. So you may as well go to shul and you may as well daven.
It's really powerful that at that moment, Kabbalah Shabbos, and you hear what's going on. For me, it's just really powerful.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary moment in the week. It really is. There's no doubt about it. And according to some of the opinions, I think we spoke about this once in the past, but the last verse of Lecha Doidi, which is Boi V'Shalom, right? And then we say Boi Chala, that according to some opinions anyway, the halacha says that you should recite that last verse, but Simcha Atzuma Ad Ma'oid, with a great, with a great joy, right? And some of the opinions say the reason for that is because at that moment you receive your neshama yeseri, you receive the extra dimension of the Shabbos spirit that's being given to you, and it's something. It really is a very, very, very important moment in the week, very, very poignant moment in the week.
It is.
And not a moment to be missed, right? That's why when the woman lights the candles, for her it's Shabbos, and that's it, nothing more. She can't do anything more. Which means it might be left up to the husband to finish up the last few bits and pieces, and that's why very often you'll see the husband, busy putting on lights or switching off lights or moving things around on the platter and generally doing the things that he's not supposed to do, because obviously that's what men do best.
So you like late on Erev Shabbos?
Huh?
You like Erev Shabbos, Shabbos Chanukah, you like the Shabbos candles later, right? You said yesterday?
No, the emphasis is like this. You should really be lighting the Shabbos candles at the regular time. You should really be lighting your Hanukkah candles before you light the Shabbos candles.
I thought you instead of, you usually say 40 minutes. Right?
Yeah.
Why? Because Hanukkah overtakes Shabbos.
I thought Shabbos Chanukah you light the 18 minutes before.
Not that I'm aware of. I'm not familiar with that idea. The emphasis is like this: that the 40 minutes that we light within and the 18 minutes outside of Jerusalem, it's like a buffer period. Right, which means we're supposed to bring in Shabbos early, right? We're supposed to have a little bit more of the week. We're supposed to add a bit of the week into Shabbos, but there's also a pretty practical dimension over here as well, which is what? If, let's say, I'm just keeping the numbers whole, right? But if sunset is at, let's say sunset is at 4:30, if you light your Shabbos candles at 4:30 and 1 second, that's a transgression of Shabbos. It's a problem, right? You're not allowed to do that. So one of the benefits of lighting Shabbos candles early is that if a person lights a little bit after, let's say that's the time for lighting candles is at 4:05, and a person lights at 4:10, so nothing has happened. It's okay, right?
Still has 18 minutes.
You've still got, it's like a little bit of a buffer period over there to allow you to get this all done before Shabbos comes in, yeah.
In my community, they have, the loudspeakers are coordinated and everything, like everywhere. And
do they have a siren or do they have music?
I think it's music. It's an unusual. And yet, if I go to Maizmanim and I use Kochal, the times are always different, not by a minute, but 10 minutes, 12 minutes.
So I don't know. There are many communities where they sound the sirens twice. They'll sound them once about 20 minutes before candle lighting to warn you that it's going to be, and then they'll sound them again when it gets to candle lighting time. Now I don't know what the setup is by you.
That is what happens. But that inevitably, that's the final warning when it's supposed to actually when that moment in time is occurring in the second siren, it's never
okay. It's off. Which one is later? Maizmanim. It could be that in Kochav Yaakov again. It could be that they've taken on the customs of Yerushalayim, which means that they're lighting candles earlier, and Maizmanim is not aware of that. And that would explain if there's a differential, like a significant differential between the two times. That would explain what it is. Right? Otherwise, I don't really know. Otherwise, what might be the reason behind it.
Is altitude included in calculation?
Altitude? No.
Altitude is not at all a part of when
longitude and latitude is definitely, that's how things are. That's how they work out. Times. Yeah. Altitude, not that I know of.
I think so. I think it is.
Really?
Yeah, because that's why there's a difference also between Tel Aviv and Yerushalayim. If in Tel Aviv.
No, but by definition, it's only a difference of a couple of minutes. But by definition, that's
because of the altitude.
No, it's because you're moving. Longitude and latitude.
I think it's
In
longitude,
Yerushalayim.
latitude, and altitude.
In
I don't
Yerushalayim,
know. You
see
know
the
what?
sun longer than in Tel Aviv.
I don't know. I really don't know. I personally think it's a geographic thing. That as you move, the shkia is going to move together with you. So as you move across the country, any country, shkia
Tel
is.
Aviv is later, the sunset time than Yerushalayim.
Take a look at the times. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
You take a look at when Shabbos goes out. Right, you can't. It's difficult to work it out when Shabbos comes in because Yerushalayim time is earlier anyway, right?
Yeah.
But if you take a look at when Shabbos goes out, you'll see that there's like a difference of a minute in Haifa. There's a difference of 2 minutes, sometimes 3 minutes, right? I think that's to do with
That's
a geographic thing. You know, in England, for example, in America it's going to be even more pronounced. But in England, you've got enormous differences between southern England and northern England about when Shabbos goes out. So, you know, at its latest in England, in London, in the middle of the summer, it can go out at 10:30, but it could go out at 11:30 or 11:45 when you get up into places like Gateshead and up into Scotland, right? And that's not an altitude thing, that's just geographic, you know, because you're moving further north. Things are becoming more pronounced.
But if it's a function of sunrise or sunset, altitude has a role. Altitude is...
Yeah, but again, I really think what happens is that, first of all here, for example, in Yerushalayim, the sunrise and sunset is the same for everywhere, right? Which means that you don't have, in Beit V'Gam, which is higher than I think most other places in Yerushalayim, there should be a differential of some kind. But I would imagine, first of all, the differential is probably very, very slight, very slight. And we've got like a universal time for the whole of Yerushalayim. It is true that when you buy calendars that are very exact with their times, so you need to buy a calendar for where you're living. Which means if you've got, for example, I've got a son-in-law who lives in Givat Zev, which is not very far out of Yerushalayim at all, and yet they've got their own calendar according to the what's it called, longitude, latitude? What's it called, that word, that according to the Coordinates, thank you. Oh, thank goodness we've got somebody who speaks English well over here, right? According to the coordinates of Givat Zev, because there are slight differences within inside of the times. There is that classic moment in Blazing Saddles. Anybody ever watch Blazing Saddles? It was a classic movie it's from a different century actually, from so long ago, when he's waiting for Shabbos to go out because they're being pursued by Indians, and he's like, finally he's there behind, this hill's in front of him, the sun's behind it, and he goes like that, and he says, okay, it's gone, let's get out of here, because otherwise they're going to be killed. But that's
Mel Brooks was
Mel Brooks was a very funny fellow. I read a fantastic quote from Mel Brooks not very long ago, which I included in an essay that went into the Hanukkah special in Ornet, in case anybody knows how to read over here. But Mel Brooks said a lot along the lines of that being Jewish, he's never really found his place in mainstream society, and he says a lot of his humor is probably rather angry. I don't remember the quote exactly, but he said a lot of his humor is based on anger, and it's to do with the fact that he's never found his place inside of mainstream society. And he said that's a reason why the Jews have such a finely tuned sense of humor, is because it's really Jewish history. It's either you laugh about it or you're going to cry and you'll never stop crying. That's what he says, which is true. Jews have this incredible ability to be able to turn almost anything into something humorous, right? To make you laugh, because otherwise, what are you going to do? You're just going to cry. That's one of the reasons why I like to inject humor over here, because otherwise if I look around the room I'm just going to burst out crying, and you can imagine, I'm sure, what I must be going through. I'm sure it's not an easy thing to do. Anyway, let's have a look at the halachas of Hadlakas Neiros, lighting Shabbos candles. Here we go. Are you ready, Bernie? Are you ready? Listen to this. You want to hear this. This first one over here is just for you. The Gemara in Shabbos, in Tractate Shabbos on Daf Chov Gimel 23, It says like this in the name of Rav Huna, that somebody who's meticulous with lighting candles will have children that are Torah scholars. Bernie, all is not lost. Phone up your mother and tell her, despite everything, tell her that she must light Shabbos candles so that you can become a Torah scholar.
Right away, can I use your phone?
No. I mean, if she's got an Israeli number, then for sure. Here, Rashi, the famous commentary, Rashi on the Gemara, says, he cites the pasuk on Kiner mitzvah v'Torah, or it's a pasuk in Mishlei in Proverbs, where Shlomo Melech says, Kiner mitzvah, the ner, the candle, is the mitzvah, and the Torah is the light. And he says that the proper lighting of Shabbos candles and Hanukkah candles will bring the Or Torah, will bring the light of Torah into the world. So here, Baruch Hashem, we've managed already in the first halacha to make a connection between Hanukkah and Shabbos candles. Where does the lighting of candles, where does it come from? So it's interesting. It's not halacha. It's not halacha. It's not a deoraisa. It doesn't come from the Torah, and it doesn't come from the rabbis either. It's something which is called midivrei sofrim. What is divrei sofrim? The sofrim were the people who wrote, the writers. So what is divrei sofrim? It is a halacha which is not explicitly written in the Torah itself, but it's derived by the sages, and they were called the Sofrim because they were the ones that wrote things down. How did they understand it?
You're talking about candles for Shabbos.
Shabbos. We're talking about Shabbos candles now, right? Rabbi Moshe, you got to go from Hanukkah mode into Shabbos mode. That's it. We've left Hanukkah behind, the donuts and the latkes, all gone.
I haven't started yet.
According to the Medrash, this is quite a fascinating idea. According to the Medrash, the Jewish people lit Shabbos candles already in the times of Moshe Rabbeinu, which means we're talking about, this is something that's going back to Har Sinai. It's not something, it doesn't say, there's no verse which says anywhere that you must light Shabbos candles, and yet they were doing it already in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. What is the function of the Shabbos candles? We'll see this is going to have an impact. Not today, but we'll see Mitzvah Hashem over the next few days. It's going to have a practical impact on how you light and what you light. But the reason for lighting the Shabbos candles is something called Oneg Shabbos. Oneg Shabbos means your pleasure of Shabbos. In order to have pleasure, it's good to have light. So, for example, one of the reasons why we light the Shabbos candles around the Shabbos table somewhere is that you should be able to see what you're eating, which may not always be something which is going to add pleasure to your enjoyment. You might be better off not seeing what it is that you're eating. Another reason for lighting the Shabbos candles is that when you bring light into the home, you're bringing kavod, you're bringing honor to Shabbos as well. Again, the minig is to have the candles next to the Shabbos table. Right, so you should be able to see what you're eating, you should be able to see who's there at the table together with you. Like I said, sometimes you probably prefer not to have the Shabbos candles there. Sometimes I would imagine your host would probably prefer not to have the Shabbos candles there.
On your table one weekend?
Yes, it was pitch black. That was. Did you realise that? That's interesting. Okay. Okay, and another little thing over here is that aside from the candles near the Shabbos table, there is also a concept of having light in other rooms as well, right? If the whole idea of bringing kavod, bringing honor into the home because it's Shabbos, so if you light up the other rooms, then that's bringing kavod as well. There's an Indian, it's interesting, it's very, in Indian over here, a concept in the halacha of that the lights, the Shabbos candles, are to help your shalom bayit. Shalom bayit is your marital harmony, right? That things should be better in the home. If there's light in the home, then normally it's going to make things easier between the two of you. If you keep banging into each other because it's dark, that's not a great idea. If you're banging into each other whilst it's light, then your shalom bayis probably could do with some fine tuning, I would imagine. Okay, one last thing here for today. How long should the candles remain alight? The Shabbos candles, how long should they remain alight? So they should stay alight long enough for the duration of the meal, which means that, depending on how quickly or how slowly you eat, some people like to have long Shabbos meals, right? And if you're going to have a long Shabbos meal, you should do your best to have the Shabbos candles stay alight until the end of the Shabbos Suda. The practical ramification for that, interestingly enough, is that when you're lighting Shabbos or Yom Tov candles, when there's going to be a big delay before you eat, so then you need to take care to have candles that are going to stay alight long enough. So for example, on Leila Seder, on Seder night, we light the candles at the beginning of Yom Tov, but we don't eat until much, much later on. You should do your best to have candles that are staying alight until after the Suda on Seder night. And another very lengthy day, of course, is Simchas Torah. Simchas Torah at night. You go to shul, there's all the dancing with the Sifrei Torah. You come home, it's very late already. And you should do your best to make sure that the candles be alight until after the Suda is over, after the meal is over, on days when you're on nights when you're going to be eating later than usual. Okay, we're going to stop over here. Mit Hashem.